Hi there, Natalie with you today with a new process video for Altenew, and today we're going to share how to create a very impactful project using different textures. So come join me. Hi there and welcome to a new episode of Inspired by a Card with Natalie. Today's inspiration comes from Terry Kostler, and she actually created this card to showcase one of the mini stamps. So I'm going to use some of the ideas to create something very textural for a dashboard for one of my albums. So I'm starting actually with a piece of acetate that measures 7 inches in wide by 8.5 inches in height. That's the size of my page, and I'm gonna use the Wavy Blooms stamp set and the Stamp and the Die actually, because I love the movement that this flower has. And the inspiration for this flower actually came from the Greatest Blessings stamp set, which is what I'm gonna use to create kind of the title for this page. So I've gone ahead and stamped the 2 blooms from the Wavy Blooms stamp set using Obsidian black ink on watercolor paper. This is from the 9x12 paper pad from Altenew. I'm gonna add a little bit of color to them. I don't want to go very detailed. I just want to bring a little bit of color to take them away from that kind of creamish tone of the paper. For this, I am using the Artist Watercolor 24 palette. The way I'm going with it, I'm just gonna give it a wash of water to the flower. I am using one of my Altenew detailing brushes, and then I'm just gonna dip the tip of my brush into some of the watercolor, and I'm just gonna place it right at the bottom. Think of it at the base of the petal close to the stem, and I'm just gonna pull the color from it. So it's gonna be really, the color is gonna be concentrated or darker at the base of the petal, and I'm just gonna pull the color with my brush towards the tip of the petal. So like I said, I'm just kind of give it a little bit of color to the flowers. I don't want to go super detailed. You could if you want to. For my project, I don't want to. I'm creating a dashboard. The reason that I'm adding some colors because I want to take it away from the cream tone. I am want to bring a little bit of color. You're gonna see that I'm staying with the pinks and the reds, a little bit towards the corals. I want to give it that kind of autumnal, let me say it properly, fallish feeling to it, because this dashboard is gonna sit in my gratitude journal, which usually happens in October, like right at the fall season here in Canada. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna take my time. This is gonna be probably the part that takes me the longest to create, because even though I am coloring, like I said, I'm not going super detailed. I do want to create a little bit of dimension on my flowers just by adding a little bit of color. And like I said, I'm applying a little bit of water inside of the flower, then I'm gonna dip my brush into the watercolor, and I'm gonna place it right at the base of the petal, and I'm gonna pull the color towards the tip of the petal that way. The way the watercolor is gonna react, it's kind of gonna bloom on the petal, and that's why I added the water first. And I'm just gonna continue until I have all my flowers used. I think I stamped around 12 of the small ones and around 8 of the bigger ones, and I'm gonna use all of them. So you're gonna see that before I'm gonna make sure that the flowers die. So before I go and cut them, I'm gonna stamp kind of what is gonna become my title. For this, I am using the Greatest Blessings stamp set. I love the movement on the stamp set. So I'm gonna actually heat emboss it twice. I'm gonna heat emboss it here using my clear ink embossing ink, and I'm gonna put it on I'm using watercolor paper here, and I'm gonna use antique gold crisp embossing powder to just bring that gold tone into the watercolor paper. But then once I actually heat embossed it, I realized that I want something that's gonna be a little bit different from the flowers. So I'm gonna go outside of the camera and actually heat emboss a piece of Solar Crest white Nina cardstock with the same sentiment, just because I want to have a little bit of a difference in color when I actually die cut this word. So now that everything is ready, I'm actually gonna take it outside of the camera and actually die cut all the pieces. Now we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk about working with textures. So one of the things that I'm gonna add, and I'm gonna replace this based on Terry's card, is that she has like a navy background on her. She plays with color. I'm gonna play with texture. I am using the organic linen 3D embossing folder to create a little bit of texture on my page. I'm using actually craft cardstock, so there's already a little bit of texture on the cardstock, and by just running it through the machine, through the my die cutting machine in the embossing folder, I'm creating this texture, but I want to accent that texture. So I'm using a little bit of white ink just to rub it on top of the texture. That's just gonna bring all those details and add more of I'm gonna say kind of like this distressed look to the craft already. So now that I have that, I'm gonna actually set up the idea based on what Terry's card looked like. If you saw Terry's card, she had a few, I'm gonna say, snowflakes on the left hand side, different colors. I'm gonna use the same idea, but I'm using my Wavy Blooms die cuts, but I'm gonna put them on the right of it, because on the left of my page is where the binding is. So I want to get away from that, so I'm gonna put it on the right, and I'm gonna do the same thing that she did, and I'm gonna run it all through the page. Remember that the base page for my layout already is on a piece of acetate, so you have already a little bit of texture differentiation between the smoothness of the acetate with the linen cardstock. I am using the flowers. I'm gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive behind them when I'm attaching them to the cardstock, and you're gonna see that I'm actually playing with the movement of them, even though they're gonna sit in a row, because they have this, I'm gonna say, kind of the fan open. They kind of create a little bit of movement. You're gonna see that I'm just gonna move them a little bit more, and by moving I mean like I'm placing them so that they don't follow straight line, but they create a little bit of a zigzag as they go up the page. Foam adhesive is gonna be my friend here, because I'm using different sizes of foam adhesive, so some of them are gonna sit a little bit higher than the other ones. That creates the dimension in the page, and at the same time that adds to the texture of my layout. One of the reasons that I emboss my titles, just to bring more of another texture onto the page, and again I'm gonna use some foam adhesive just to pop it from all the flowers. I want to make sure that that comes off a little bit more. I'm really in love all the textures and all the dimension that this layer has. One of the things that I did though is that I make sure when I created my my embossed cardstock, I make sure that I cut it shorter than my acetate page. I want to have that smoothness of the acetate, kind of make it look like my page is floating on my album. So one of the things that I also enjoyed out of Terry's card is that she had splatters on it. Because her background is navy, you can see the white splatters. I am actually replacing some of that by adding the ink on the embossing area, but I'm adding also a little bit of antique gold metallic ink sprayed splatters to this, and I'm also gonna add a little bit of pure white ink in the splatters to the entire cardstock. I just want to bring more of those colors that you see on the bottom. Just to finish, one of the things that you need to bring a little bit of shine and another texture, so I'm going to bring a few sequins. When I saw Terry, she had little gems in the snowflakes, so I'm going to bring some of the sequins from Altenew, and I'm just going to scatter them throughout the flowers. These flowers don't have a center, so I'm just going to kind of just sprinkle them around, and also around the title. Just to finish, I'm going to use a baby cloth, just like a wipe, just to clean the edges of the acetate from any drops of ink that might have gone that way, and I'm done. I love how this turned out. Now my dashboard is gonna sit there. It's gonna be, think of it as just a division in my album, but I can put a picture in it, and I can use the B side to add another photo. So I'm loving how this turned out, and like I said, it was based on that card from Terry, which I love. As always, you can check all the details of how these came together on the Altenew Mixed Media blog. Remember that you can always leave me a comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more beautiful content. Take care, guys.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching.